ADHD is not a lack of discipline. It's a nervous system running a different operating system. One truth became unavoidable. The modern world is perfectly designed to overstimulate, fragment, and exhaust minds. Today, he breaks down ADHD, the impulsivity, the intensity, the hyperfocus, the crashes, the moments of brilliance, and the cost no one talks about.
Welcome back to the Unbroken Protocol. I'm Abraham Spring, and today is episode 11. The biggest mistake was treating ADHD like a character flaw instead of a system that needs a design. Now, if you've been following this series, you might have noticed something. The wellness tracking addiction, the caffeine dependency, the social media comparison trap, they're all connected. And the thread tying them together? ADHD. Or more specifically, a brain that's dopamine starved, constantly seeking stimulation, operating on an interest-based nervous system instead of an important-based one. Most people think ADHD is about being hyperactive or not being able to focus. But here's what nobody tells you. ADHD isn't a focus problem. It's an everything problem disguised as a focus one. Today, I want to show you how the tracking apps, the caffeine, the social media comparisons aren't random problems. They're all symptoms of the same underlying system. An ADHD brain desperately seeking what it needs in a world designed to exploit that desperation. Now, what exactly is ADHD? It's an executive dysfunction. It's a disruption in how the brain regulates and controls the thought processes. Think of executive function as your brain's project manager. It helps you start tasks, stay focused, switch between activities, manage time, regulate emotions, and plan ahead. With ADHD, that project manager is either asleep, drunk, or on holiday. You know what needs to be done. You want to do it. But the system that gets you from knowing to doing is broken. And here's what makes it brutal. ADHD is invisible. People, including those with ADHD, assume it's laziness, a lack of discipline, or weakness. But it's neurological. The prefrontal cortex works differently. The dopamine and the neuroadrenaline systems don't function like a neurotypical brain. Let's go a little bit deeper. Let's address the first part, time blindness, now versus not now. ADHD brains have two time zones, now and not now. If something is happening now, it exists. If it's not now, it doesn't exist. There's no in 30 minutes, there's no later today. This is why people with ADHD perform brilliantly under pressure, but can't start a project they've had months to complete. It wasn't now until the deadline became immediate. Importance doesn't activate ADHD brains. Interest does. Novelty does. Urgency does. Which leads us into the next part, which is black and white thinking. ADHD brains think in extremes. It's either perfect or trash. Either I'm the best or completely useless. This is why someone abandons a workout plan after missing one day and say, I missed Monday, so the whole week is ruined. That's not giving up. That's the black and white thinking saying, if it's not perfect, it's not worth doing. Which then leads us on to rejection sensitivity dysphoria, RSD, which is an overwhelming emotional pain in response to rejection, criticism, or perceived rejection. Not just that hurts, unbearable pain. Someone doesn't text back quickly, the brain interprets it as a rejection. Someone gives constructive feedback, it feels like you're being told that you're worthless. Up to 98% of people with ADHD experience RSD. Studies show social rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain. For ADHD brains, the pain is amplified to 10 times. This is why social media is particularly toxic for ADHD brains. Every post is a potential source of rejection. Every comparison is a potential source of pain. And when that happens, you experience emotional dysregulation. Emotions are more intense, hit instantly. Excitement becomes euphoria. Frustration becomes rage. Disappointment becomes crushing despair. It's the 0 to 100 in a split second. And this isn't about self-control. The prefrontal cortex that regulates emotions isn't functioning properly. Remember, your project manager is completely off. Which leads us on to the hyperfocus versus can't focus. What that means is ADHD brains can't control focus. Sometimes you can't focus on anything. Sometimes you hyperfocus so intensely that hours disappear. Time blindness. There's no middle ground. It's either all or nothing. So you can't predict which one you'll get. Now, here's how all of this ties in together. Remember the tracking addiction? That's the ADHD brains seeking immediate dopamine feedback. Every closed ring, every completed metric, every badge is a hit of dopamine the brain desperately needs. The tracking isn't about health, it's about self-medication. Remember the caffeine dependency? That's ADHD brains trying to stimulate underactive dopamine systems. Caffeine makes you feel functional because it's temporarily fixing the neurological issue. Multiple coffees, pre-workouts, energy drinks. That's not a coffee habit. That's an undiagnosed ADHD self-medicating. Remember the social media comparison? That's rejection sensitivity dysphoria, meeting a validation economy. Every post is a potential rejection. Every like is dopamine. Every comparison triggers the unbearable pain. The algorithm knows exactly which buttons to push. That's not three separate problems. They're one ADHD brain trying to survive in a world that exploits its vulnerabilities. Now, when it comes to ADHD brains, they are dopamine starved. Social media provides infinite novelty, infinite stimulation, infinite dopamine hits. Scroll, dopamine, like, dopamine, comment, dopamine. But here's the brutal part. Every scroll also triggers potential rejection. Every comparison activates the black and white thinking. Every notification feeds the desperate need for external validation. You're not weak for being addicted to your phone. Your phone is specifically designed to hijack ADHD vulnerabilities. Now, when it comes to tracking apps and quantified dopamine, why do people with ADHD love tracking? Because it provides, first one, immediate feedback, the dopamine hit. External validation, the closed rings and achievement. Novelty, the new stat every single day. And a clear objectives, removes planning overwhelm. The tracking apps aren't helping you get healthier. They're giving your brain the structure and dopamine it's desperate for. Now, the next part is spicy. Caffeine, the ADHD band-aid. Most people with undiagnosed ADHD are functional caffeine addicts without realizing they're self-medicating. Caffeine stimulates dopamine and noradrenaline systems, just enough that you feel more functional, more focused, more capable. But it creates sleep disruption, which makes ADHD worse, which then makes you need more caffeine. You're borrowing focus from your sleep and wondering why you never feel recovered. This is why these three things, tracking, caffeine, and social media, are so hard to quit for people with ADHD. I don't think these are bad habits. I personally feel like they're survival strategies for a brain that isn't getting what it needs. The next one is the movement paradox. The traditional advice says, stay still, focus, and stop fidgeting. That's so backwards. ADHD brains need movement and stimulation. Forcing stillness makes focus worse, not better. Movement provides just enough stimulation to keep the brain engaged. Remove movement and the brain seeks stimulation elsewhere. This is why people with ADHD love high-intensity varied training. It helps provide novelty and immediate feedback. A normal workout plan isn't going to give it its feedback. The ADHD brain disengages. The solution isn't to force stillness. It's to design a system that works with the need for movement. Creating containers. How to actually function. Externalize everything. If it's in your head, it doesn't exist. Use visible timers. Write everything down immediately. Set multiple reminders. ADHD brains can't hold information reliably. So make it visible, make it physical. And if possible, have someone else present, even if they're not helping. Provides enough external structure that the ADHD brain can engage. This isn't about being watched, it's about external accountability, providing the structure the internal system lacks. The next one is design your environment. Make bad habits hard and good habits easy. Want to stop doom scrolling? Put the phone in another room. Want to train consistently? Lay out clothes the night before. ADHD brains can't be trusted to make good decisions in the moment. So design your environment to make good decisions automatic. Now, when it comes to interest-based planning, instead of important-based planning, ask, what's engaging my brain right now? What's novel? Then do that thing, because ADHD brains that's engaged will accomplish more than one forcing itself through a boring task. Microplanning, now-based systems. Plan in now units, not this week, now. What can I do in the next hour? What's the next immediate step? Break everything into now-sized chunks. Make the first step so small, it's almost insulting. Don't write train for a marathon. Write put the running shoes instead. Embrace imperfection. Done is better than perfect. Progress is better than nothing. ADHD means missing days. Having bad sessions, abandoning plans, that's not failure, that's just part of the system. The failure is giving up entirely because it couldn't be done perfectly. As we come to the closing, I want you to think of ADHD not as a character flaw. Think of it as a different operating system. The tracking addiction, the caffeine dependency, the social media comparison, they're all symptoms of an ADHD brain seeking dopamine, structure, and stimulation in a world that doesn't provide them naturally. So the solution isn't to fight your ADHD. It's to design a life that works with it. External timers, body doubling, interest-based planning, movement instead of forced stillness. People with ADHD aren't broken. Their systems are just different. And once they work with their actual operating system instead of against it, everything gets easier. Not easy, just easier. The goal isn't to be neurotypical. The goal is to be functional with the brain you actually have. Build your containers, externalize your systems, work with ADHD, not against it. And remember, the modern world is designed to exploit these vulnerabilities. Phones, social media, gaming, sugar, caffeine. They're all dopamine traps, but awareness is the first step to breaking free. I'm Abraham Spring, and I'll see you around.